Hello again. Welcome back to another week of A Photographer Talks. This week, I'm joined by a photographer who, in my opinion, has made the happiest picture of a leaf ever. You just cannot help smiling when you see that picture. Matt Stuart. Matt Stuart has been taking pictures for a very long time, 24 years, or at least that's what his internet website says. And he says also he never leaves the house without a camera. In his own words, I'm not sure which came first, being nosy or an interest in street photography. But a fascination with people and the way they live their lives is why he enjoys the business so much. He was, until recently, a long-time resident of London, so now he's hot-footing his way around different countries, taking pictures as he goes. Let's see what Matt Stuart has to say. Please join me in welcoming Matt Stuart to your screens.
Hello, how are you doing, Charles? Harlem, loud and clear. Well, I've been told by my boss at Apple. Have you read about this? If you ever do an interview, you should have a completely white background so that no one can steal information.
That's
So,
very
you
interesting.
see, I don't have a boss at Apple, but I'm taking his advice, and so I have a completely white background.
Good on you. Well, hello Harlem. Hello Harlem, hello white background. Hopefully the microphone's working. I'm not sure if it was when I actually clicked into you there. So that was interesting.
Who
Um,
knows?
well, if someone's watching, hopefully someone can say something on the chat room and then we'll find out. Um, good. I think we're there. I like the fact that you've got a hat on, actually. It looks
Yes, that's what us follically challenged men tend to do this time of year.
is that
We,
right?
yeah, yeah, you wouldn't know about it, but
No,
yeah,
no.
it's just got a little bit chilly, and obviously we're all concerned about not getting a cold, so just wrapping up a little bit, you know, as you do.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, well, good for you. Good for wrapping up, keeping warm. I'm gonna shiver here because we haven't got the heating on, but I'll
Well,
survive.
you look very well. You look like you have a bit of a suntan, or you've been to the parlor. And yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought so. Anyway, you look very well, and I like the snowboard in the background that sort of has a sense of adventure and holiday and suntan about it.
This is
So
true. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I like to try. I like to please. It's yeah, it's there. It's to remind me about something I like to do when I might actually be able to go and do it again at some point.
do you ever do it just in the front room and pretend?
I have been known, actually. In lockdown, we did, funnily enough. Yeah, I did it with my daughter.
And do you actually stand on it, or are you one of those people that pretends that they can flip upside down and do it on their backs with it on their feet upside down?
No, no, that's how I learnt to ride a bicycle using clip pedals many years ago. And I did end up in a park on my back with the bike above me because I couldn't get out of the clip pedals. But
Fantastic.
I haven't been known to do it on a snowboard.
Bikes, I mean, honestly, the amount of things that I've seen go wrong on bikes recently, obviously just moving to the Netherlands, um, I mean, the whole place is completely, it's just bikes. But I saw, when it was about a week ago, I saw a kid on the back of a bike get his foot caught in the back spokes of a bike, which was pretty bad. But my worst cycling accident was trying to show my mother a jump on my BMX at the park, and I pulled back on the handlebars a little bit too hard, as you do when you're trying to do a trick for your mother. And I went sailing through the air, kind of upside down, and then landed on the floor on my back with the bike on top of me, and completely winded myself. Have you ever winded yourself properly?
I've been known mountain biking. I've done quite a lot of it. So yes,
So, I mean, when you haven't done it before, it's kind of like really scary,
it
and you
is.
just kind
Yeah, yeah.
of Sound like an otter. Um, anyway, yeah, bikes. Moving on. Sorry, let's.
So clearly that's the reason that you never became a professional cyclist, and you decided to go for something slightly more relaxed, shall we say?
Skateboarding. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I was very into skateboarding for a long time. For about 8 years, 8 or 9 years, I was really into skateboarding when I was growing up, and I think actually that's probably where, like, my love of the streets and being outside and kind of utilizing, you know, street furniture to skateboard on. And I think somewhere along the line, you know, that kind of stuff rubbed off and sort of was a segue to the street photography. So, yeah, skateboarding was my passion, far safer than cycling.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that actually, but I have actually got a skateboard down here. Um,
Show us a trick.
we'll have a look at that later. No, we're off camera, right? Off camera. So maybe that's where you found your love for street then, because I was
Yeah,
going to ask kind of what was it that was your sort of the reason you grew into being a street photographer. Maybe it was that. Maybe that's why you're also wearing that hat, because that's what
oh, definitely. And
skateboarders do.
I mean,
And you're in it. Look,
one,
it's just
one
you.
bit, that's it. There's no getting away from it. No, I mean, skateboarding was a massive sort of influence in my growing up. I mean, I didn't go to school that much. Just because I didn't find it particularly interesting at the time. I was probably quite immature, and I skateboarded a lot. And you know, through skateboarding, I mean, these sort of individual sports, or I guess it is a sport. They're amazing, especially for young men growing up, because you just learn to sort of focus and concentrate and try,
Very
and
true.
try and
Yes.
try and try. And you're not really trying for anyone else but yourself, although obviously you're probably with your mate and you hope that your mate might see you make a trick. But it does instill a degree of repetition, of obsessiveness, and you know, try again. And every time you try, it kind of hurts until you make it. And so it's a really good kind of precursor to the photography, because let's face it, you know, especially with street photography, you try and try and try again until you make it, and most of the time you don't really make it, and it always hurts when you don't make it. Maybe not physically, but definitely mentally.
Well, also the other side of it is the elation when it does work. When you've stood there on that street corner or wherever it is that you're shooting, and suddenly this thing happens, or you're walking along and you get that shot. Well, it's the eyes there, your body is just like, oh my God, that's fantastic. And you could kind of see that when you pull off the kickflip.
You hope you've got that shot. You hope.
Well, yes.
And I think, but there's so many like lovely things that sort of combine with the skateboarding and the street photography, because obviously with the skateboarding, if you make a trick and no one saw it, I mean, you made the trick and you're happy because you know you made the trick, and you're honest with yourself. You made the trick. You're not going to lie to yourself that you made the trick. But with the street photography, you can make a trick every now and then, and you can hold on to it forever. I mean, with photography in general, not just street photography. With photography, you can hold on to that trick forever, which is good. I mean, it's nice to hold on to things and not lose them, not lose memories.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
I actually find that one of the things that I'm not very good at is remembering. And so again, photography is something that has helped me to remember in a certain way, or potentially it's made my brain forget, because I rely on my camera to remember for me. Who knows? I'll take it to the shrink.
That is something that has been said about photography in general now that everyone has a smartphone, is that we are not using our brains to remember things as much because we are far too snap happy. In the old days, we would obviously use our brains to remember, because you would have to use a roll of film to take the picture. And obviously you couldn't do that on such a regular basis. So it's interesting to hear you say that you do that. I think a lot of photographers do to a certain extent. I think there's an element of obviously remembering those images, though, remembering to dig them out, because obviously as a photographer, especially a street photographer, you take many more pictures trying to get that single moment, or at least that's my understanding from speaking to another street photographer last week and doing a bit of it myself, that remembering where that one picture is not necessarily always that easy.
Well, it's funny. I'm now living in Harlem, but I still have a house in London, and I'm sort of slowly but surely moving everything. And I have all these boxes of negatives. I used to shoot on film. I have 20 years worth of film in boxes. But you do scan the good ones. And so I had this kind of really weird sort of, I don't know if I would never do it, but I had this kind of realization that, the negatives I don't really care that much about, because I've got them in the cloud, I've got them in the hard drives, I've got everything, everything is backed up upon backed up upon backed up, and the negatives are, in the top cupboard getting dusty. Obviously I do care about them, and I would be upset if they did go missing or the house burnt down, but there is this sort of the cloud, whatever that is, that kind of reassures us that everything is okay.
True, yes. Well, the cloud is safe from fire. Let's say that. Safe from fire and flood.
Is it safe?
Is it safe from where?
Hackers.
Oh, gosh, yes. You could have another one there. The question is, though, I suppose, in those boxes of images that you've taken, are there any that now you would deem as good images where 20 years ago you wouldn't have? Or do you ever go back? Do you ever think to go back to them?
Yeah, for the London book that I published in 2016, which I'm republishing now, All That Life Can Afford, I went through everything. And it was actually, I got quite depressed going through everything. The man that was helping me with the sequencing, Stuart Smith, said, you just have to go through everything. Wow. And so I went through everything. And 98% of everything was shit. Excuse my French. And it's just one of those you're like, oh God, how many hours? But then obviously you do pull out the goldfish and go, oh. And I think from going back through everything, I potentially found maybe 10, 15 more pictures.
Okay.
But that's not a lot.
Not a lot, no. But it does show how your mind changes. And
it does show how your mind changes. But also I do think you have to be extremely obsessive to do this, especially with taking photographs in public places, having no cliches, destination. It's just a journey. And so you go out and you're trying and trying and trying. And the degree of concentration and focus and listening and smelling and, just hunting out anything that might be happening, you do end up having this kind of very obsessive sort of nature that happens to you. And so from looking through from that to looking through the negatives, when I look through a negative, I look through a sheet of negatives, I do it very quickly, and I'm kind of like a computer, I guess, almost, and it's very like note, maybe no, and that's a roll. Just no.
But there's a skill in that.
Yeah. Well, you just have to. I mean, it's always interesting, and again, I do think it is down to obsession and how hard you work. I obviously sometimes I teach and I see different photographers who, their work and what they consider is good and what they don't consider is good, and blah, 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 blah. And it just depends how into it you are. If you're really, really into it, and you kind of go down this, rabbit hole, which is the thing that we're all supposed not to be doing these days. But if you do go down a rabbit hole with street photography, you become extremely obsessed and you become extremely observant. and you become very sort of, I think, sort of empathetic to things, whether it's a person, a touch, a glance, a man in a box, or even a leaf that looks like he's smiling at you.
Well, I think that's very, very true. Your eye becomes hyper aware,
and without sounding, romantic, so does your heart. You are busy sort of, wondering how people are, how do they feel, how does that feel, how does the leaf feel? It's a dead leaf, let's be honest, but it's still smiling. Oh, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of put this filter, I guess, on everything that you're looking at. The problem is you kind of have this filter on the whole time,
24/7. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I have one divorce under my belt that I put down to photography, and all sorts of other things that have been sort of broken because of potentially this obsession.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's interesting to hear. I mean, you've obviously spent a long time scoping the streets, and you've got your skill. The obsession obviously can lead to all sorts of different issues, but let's not go down that route.
I think it's a positive obsession, but yeah, I mean, with any obsession, there's obviously negative sides to it.
Of course, yeah. But in that negative side, or in those particular periods, that's when you find the funny, happy shots. I mean, you've mentioned the leaf. I've mentioned the leaf. I'm going to put the leaf on because the leaf is the best shot on the internet.
I love what you said. But you know what? I was probably feeling sad when I saw the leaf. Okay.
Yes, but when you saw this leaf, you immediately felt happy, didn't you?
No, when I saw this leaf, I immediately felt silly, actually, because what I had to do was lie down on the pavement and photograph it for about half an hour. I didn't just see the leaf and take one picture; it was there. And you move and you move back and you move forward and you try and look at the focus and blah, 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 blah. And during that time, you have 3 builders on the other side of the street who are calling you all sorts of weird and wonderful names because they think you're a complete loon. But actually, that particular shot was taken on a digital camera, and so I was able to show them afterwards what I had been doing, and they appreciated it. But yeah, I mean, there is the sort of physical side of some of these photographs where you just put yourself in such a strange situation. I was lucky that particular shot was near my house, which isn't a particularly busy place. But oh my God, imagine seeing that leaf on Oxford Street.
Probably would have got crushed before you'd even taken a chance to shoot it.
It would have been swept up and shredded. Anyway, yeah, interesting. I mean, the process is extremely interesting with photography and sort of this wandering and there's a lot of sort of existentialism, and you think about people, you think about yourself, you think about the world, you wonder whether you should do this or whether you shouldn't do that. You have lots of moral dilemmas whilst you're in the moment. Should I take a picture of her? Should I take a picture of him? Is that okay? Am I good? Am I bad? Oh no, it's okay, I'm good. Oh, but because I was thinking about it, I missed it. Shit.
Have you had awkward moments then? Have you had any kind of really, oh my God, or people attacking you? I mean, obviously, builders laughing at you taking a picture of a leaf is one thing, but when you're taking pictures of people?
I have a sort of a general rule of thumb, which is to be good. And I know it sounds like a strange thing to say, but if you are being good, whilst you're taking photographs, literally, I am being good. Am I being bad? No, I'm being good. I find that you can be almost, I don't want to say bulletproof because you can be very sort of assured in what you're doing. If people ask you what you're doing and why you're doing it, you say, I'm doing it because of this, which is the truth. because you're being good. And if you respond with truth in the moment, people absolutely know that you're being honest. If you lie, if you're being bad in the moment and you respond with a lie, 9 times out of 10, you pause and people know that you're lying. And so the deal is, if you feel awkward photographing this particular scene because you shouldn't be, your body language will stiffen. You will stand out as someone who is doing something wrong. And B, you will, when asked what you're doing and why you're doing it, you will either have to explain honestly why you're doing it, and it will be upsetting
Awkward,
for the person, or you're going to have to lie. And lying, it's always punctuated by a pause or covering your mouth, or So be good, go out there, take pictures of things because you like them, because you have an affinity towards them, you feel a warmth or an appreciation. And then if someone comes up to you and asks you what the hell you're doing, you say, oh, I just really liked how the light was shining through your hair. Okay? And if they have a problem with that, honestly, in 24 years of doing it, I've had, a handful of problems.
That's good. That's very good to hear.
It was mainly because I actually learned from Leonard Freed, who was a Magnum photographer who's sadly not with us anymore, but just the way to go about it and the way to approach and the way to be. And that was it, basically. Just be good. Whether the picture is good or not is another thing, but just be good.
Oh yeah, well, as we've already discussed, you have to take a lot of pictures, and maybe the one of the light shining through the hair isn't the one, but you've been honest, you've been good.
Absolutely. God, it sounds like church.
How many of your pictures then do you think, sort of proportionately, are people versus things? So let's say leaf, or the other one I'm going to put up, which also is a picture that really should break the internet, is where you've actually made plastic good in this picture. The bluebird of happiness chatting away to the elephant. It's
actually not a bird, it's a dolphin. It's a flying dolphin.
It's a flying dolphin.
Yeah, I mean so lots of wandering around in my own head, looking at things and thinking about things, and then seeing things and wondering whether that looks quite like something, or maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe I did too much drugs when I was 16, and you see a dolphin and you think, is that a dolphin? And you say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to take a picture of it just in case. And then you take a picture of it and kind of look at it and go, oh, that looks like a dolphin. Oh, and then you show it to some people and they say, and that looks like an elephant down there. And you say, well, I never saw an elephant. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then you show it to lots of people during workshops and you say, what do you all see? What do you all see? And some people say a dolphin and some people say an elephant. And you tell them it's actually a plastic bag. And they laugh. But no, I think a lot of the things that I see are objects. I think a lot of the things I see people. At the moment, I'm really interested not in people. I've decided this year to not be interested in people. And so I've moved to the Netherlands and I'm starting by not being interested in people. Okay. So that was my New Year's resolution. And you know what? It was kind of a good one because people are just not around for some reason this year. People are staying inside.
Yeah. Maybe you need to take a very, very strong interest in bikes. Because obviously the Netherlands has plenty of them.
There's a lot of stuff here. It's quite a messy country. So for me, it's been interesting. There's a lot of stuff and sort of ironic and strange and surreal things. So I'm enjoying this kind of peopleless exploration of a new country. I was briefly in England last week. Which was also interesting to see how much it's changed, obviously, with this year being the craziest year of all years ever.
In our lifetimes. Yeah.
In our lifetimes. As I was speaking to a great photographer, Cristobal Hara, a couple of weeks ago, a Spanish photographer, and he's about 74, and I was like, how are you doing? He said, well, obviously my health, and, I have to stay careful and blah, blah, blah. But he said, Matt, We're just so lucky because none of us have been affected by a war in the sort of in Spain, in the UK. We haven't had to go and fight. We haven't had to go out the house and wonder whether a bomb's going to drop on our head, as
Indeed.
Europeans, and which is so true. So I mean, yeah, it's inconvenient. We have this imposed on us, and it's horrendous for the people who catch it and for the people whose family members do die from it. But I think I have a positive disposition, and I think we just have to get through it.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely, and we all find our own certain ways of doing it. I'm doing these, for example, and through this, I'm managing to connect to all sorts of wonderful and interesting photographers, some of which I've connected to before, and some of which I haven't. And to be able to sit here and have a conversation with you is fantastic. Frankly,
Yeah, so far I'm enjoying it very much.
That's
It's
very good. Hopefully everybody out there, whoever watches it, will do too. It means that we do things differently, and if that means that you're not going to shoot people and you're going to shoot bicycles or gingerbread or clogs or whatever it is, I've spent a lot of time in Holland myself. Great fan of it. I think it will be interesting to see the work that comes out of it. But talking of work and where you used to make your home or your stage, shall we say, London was your home for a very long time. Forever,
yeah,
really,
yeah,
effectively.
46 years, yeah.
Same age as me, by the way.
Wow, you're doing so much better
Amazing.
than me.
I don't know about that.
What moisturizer do you use?
I'll tell you afterwards, yeah. I got it in Holland. It seems that looking through at least the majority of the photography that you have, at least in the public domain, that most of it is shot in London and predominantly, I feel, in kind of the Oxford Circus, Regent Street, Piccadilly Circus area. Am I right in saying that?
No, not really.
Oh, that's rubbish, isn't it?
Honestly, you should sack your researcher. No, I'm messing around. A lot of it was spent in London. I spent, shot in London. I spent a lot of time up until about 2016 photographing in London daily, every day, rain or shine, every day. And
How long a day, every day? All day? 2
yeah,
hours?
yeah, no, like in fits and starts. But I would say, get up, get out, get into London at about 10 o'clock. Shoot until lunch, have a coffee, bourgeois, in Soho, and then keep on going and shoot.
Good for inspiration.
Absolutely, and then shoot until the light goes. And the light, as you probably know, that comes down Oxford Street at the end of the day is phenomenal. I mean, really, it's nothing quite like it. And so, I would do that a lot. But after 2016, I started traveling more. I got really interested in America, especially after 45 got erroneously voted in. And I went there and traveled around a lot and discovered some interesting places, photographed in LA a lot, New York, Florida, Tampa, places like that, and enjoyed that very much. I find America fascinating. I'm sad not to be able to be there right now, but obviously I think I'm probably in the best place for this year.
Yeah, true. Well, that's open to opinion, but yes. Interesting to know that you fell in love with America. I think there's quite a lot of British people that fall in love with America, especially from a street photography perspective, and especially if your influences are the ones that you cited, the likes of Winogrand and Meyerowitz. You can go to America with a very different headspace and get uber excited. From a personal perspective, I've been there a lot and used to work there a lot, and would come back with awesome amounts of shots that I've never really imagined getting in Britain, or where I was living in Austria at the time, because it's so extremely different. And I think that's possibly it. I mean, it's impressive to know that you trod the boards of London so often and keep coming back with fresh work. because obviously going abroad opens your eyes, and I'm not surprised you were excited.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. I really, I kind of get depressed, not depressed, but I get pissed off by people who need to travel to make work, especially the type of work that I do. The best place to travel to is where you live, because it means you do it thoroughly. You can spend every day doing it. And so, lucky me, I lived in London, which is one of the great capital cities of the world. But I really do think if you're going to make strong work and over a period of time, you do need to be making that work where you live, or you need to move somewhere and go and live there. How important is it to you? I mean, people who go for a 2-week holiday to India and bring back 5 postcards, I'm not really interested in it. I'm really, really not interested in it personally. And they must love it, and if they're happy doing it, that's fine. And and I'm pleased they had a lovely holiday. But I'm just not. It's like I'm pretty serious about photography. I'm in it, and I've moved here to see different things.
Absolutely.
I moved here because of Brexit, to be honest. But that's something completely different. So I became politically motivated. Around sort of 2016, 2017, I went to the inauguration and saw all the millions of people that didn't turn up, and I went to the largest mass shooting in American history, and tried to get a feel of what this place was like. I mean, I don't think that it's possible for someone like me, an Englishman, to go there and do a really serious body of work without completely screwing up a lot of things back at home. So people like Matt Black, I don't know if you know Matt Black.
Yes, yeah.
He's done an amazing body of work on contemporary poverty in America, and that kind of, just complete graft. He has not stopped doing this now for years. He's an American. He lives there, and he travels and has done the road trip that makes every other road trip look like nothing. Put Robert Frank, Gary Winogrand, and all the other road trips all together in a pot, and you might just come out with half of Matt Black's.
Wow. Okay.
But this is the thing, you need to live there. And so I'm aware of the fact that I can't make a book on America. Maybe I could make a book on a place in America. In fact, I have made a book on a place in America, but it's a very small place in America. So, yeah, that's my philosophy. Like, work where you are, work where you live.
Work where you live, and there you will find beauty in it, I think, is at least what I've learned from seeing your work and shooting the streets. Of course, going and traveling, fantastic. You go there with fresh eyes.
Get a nice suntan.
But it's only when you're somewhere for a very long time that you, in a way, you can almost get bored of it, and that's when you start to become more creative. I really want to put this shot up of the headless fella that you shot to kind of show exactly that creativity, if you will. There's
not much creativity there. Picture. No, that picture is, I would say, 85% luck. But okay. The other 15% was probably being out there and just exposing yourself to hope and chance and the possibility.
How long did it take you to get that shot? Was that purely... In fact, you know what? Before you answer that question...
How long it took me to take that shot? I'd say it was about 500th of a second.
Ooh, clever.
at maybe like 5.6 or f8. But yeah, it was 2 or 3 frames, and one of them was lucky.
Okay, so I have to ask this question because I still haven't really got it, and this is embarrassing for me, but whose head is the shadow?
The head is a man who is not in the frame. He's on the left of the frame, and he has not yet walked into the frame. So the shadow is projected from a man that the camera has edited out.
Right, but where is the head of the man? What was
He,
this?
he is on the left hand side of the frame that you
No, no,
see.
no, no. That man I get, but the head of the man, as in that's
Oh,
not
I don't
there.
know. No, so the head of the man that's not there, you see a crazy, thing walking along the street, and you take two or three pictures of it. I don't know what they were doing, where they were going, why they were going. Whether he's pulled it up, I have no idea. But I do know that the shadow on the left, which is like the kind of the eureka for me, was from a man who had not yet walked into the frame, and I didn't know that that had happened. And so when I got the contact sheet back, I I was like, oh my god. And those kind of for me, are the best pictures, are the ones where you don't know what you took, and something just surprises you. Because, I mean, without sounding weird, but like when you know what you took, you know what you took,
Yeah.
and there's no big surprise. But I like it when the camera can pinch you on the arse every now and then and surprise you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a happy accident if ever there was one.
Yeah,
Do,
well, that's the thing. I mean, it was more happy than accident. I mean, I was there and I was, I
oh
was
yeah.
trying. But yeah, the accident is fair comment. I mean, I didn't know it happened, and it all worked out well.
But that was a pure case of an accident where by comparison, the story behind another print I've got of yours here, the where is he?
You
I didn't
you
know. I
you
didn't know. I didn't know I bought so many Matt Stewart
probably
prints. To be perfectly
kept me in
honest,
woolly hats and hooded tops for
I
the last.
know
Thank you so much.
we're going to have to do this one again. And I'm going to dress up exactly like you. This shot, the peacock, that was less about a happy accident. You've got a good story here, right? Because you
I ha-
tried. So you'd work. You've been working the streets of London. You're up and down treading the boards, and
exactly. Yeah.
you saw this.
So I saw the advert, which was an extraordinary advert, and the advert was there for maybe 6 months, maybe a year. I don't know. They were making a Harry Winston shop on New Bond Street. So this amazing advert was up there for a long time, and I would walk past it every day, and I'd go, "Wow, that's an amazing advert!" Like when you see an advert that is sort of new and amazing, and you think, "Wow, that's a really cool advert!" Like, wow. Is that a picture? Is that an illustration? Is that a photograph? Turns out it was actually a photograph of a peacock. But and then I would walk and walk and walk, and every day I'd walk past it, and like maybe one day there'd be a blue car, and you'd like, oh, maybe I can make it into a peacock car. And then some days you might see someone walking past it in a blue coat, or I don't know. You try, and then I had this amazing email from this guy called Joel Meyerowitz, who's a mentor and a friend.
Yeah.
I'd never met him before, but he'd seen my work in PDN magazine, and he sent me an email saying, like, Matt, like, really like your work, which was like, doo, doo, doo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm coming to London. Do you want to meet up and go and shoot? I like, doo, doo, doo. And so I emailed back and obviously said, I'd love to. That sounds fantastic, Joel. Let's meet up at Oxford Circus, and I'll take you on my walk. And on the day that I was walking with Joel Meyerowitz, taking pictures, we walked past the peacock that I'd walked past for the last 6 months, and there was a blue skip perfectly in place. And I was like, Joel,
Oh my word.
Joel, look. And he said, oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I was like, it's mine.
Out,
He
away.
was like, yeah. And so I took the picture, and he said, can I take it? And I said, yeah, sure, take it. Don't show it. And so we both had this kind of shared moment, photographing the pea skip. But a really strange thing though, like, so Joel is very positive. He's kind of got an aura about him. He is kind of like a sort of street photography Jedi.
Yes,
And I
definitely.
have this other picture that I took with Joel, which is the New York cop with a kind of shadow over
Yeah,
his over his
His upper lip.
It looks like a moustache.
Yeah.
And I was Joel on that day as well. And I think there is almost this like, for me anyway, this kind of you kind of almost, it's not upping your game, but you just like, you become ultra observant, you become ultra enthused just by being with someone who is, so much better and so much, the history of street photography standing next to you. And so I've just, whenever I go and photograph with Joel, I always feel ultra aware, not aware of myself, but aware of things.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to arrange to meet up with him again to get a few more good pictures, but he's busy.
Need to get to Italy because that's where he lives now, isn't it?
He's in Italy. He's good, and I speak to him. We email every other week or so and check in, and he's good and healthy and super busy. But yeah, he has a real kind of glow about him that I hope I've channeled, but I think it's really important to, go out there, be good, be kind of love things, enthuse about things. And you know what, when you really, really look and you really, really sort of think that you're going to get a good picture, half the time they turn up.
Yeah, that's very true. It's fascinating to hear that you think you've got some of those best shots with the Jedi Master that is Joel, because I believe you've interviewed him on stage a couple of times on.
We had he was given a sort of like a award, lifetime achievement award, and I was I interviewed him on stage, and it was good. It kind of ended up just being a chat, but it was fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine going out with him. You kind of, your heart's possibly pounding more than. Oh, we lost him. Hang on, we better call him back. Let's see what happened there. Apologies, everybody. I think his computer possibly ran out of battery. There he is again.
That was weird. Am I there?
You are, sort of, but not quite.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know.
Something's playing in the background. Don't quite know what's going on here.
Let's have a look. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I've got some strange noise. There we go. Don't know what happened. Apologies, everybody. Had a bit of a technical nightmare. Matt disappeared. My computer started doing something else.
Yeah, it made it a little bit more kind of
dramatic.
Yeah, there was drama. I think, and this is something else that Joel told me. It was actually before we went on stage. He said, the thing about presenting and talking, just make it dramatic. Just make sure there's drama. And which is kind of good advice. So many people go up and just talk blandly about photographs they took, and this photograph I took of this and this and this and this. Whereas if you listen to Joel speak, he, enthuses, and he does make his presentations far more dramatic.
He's got a lot of history. He's got a lot of funny anecdotes to talk about, I'm sure.
Amazing ones. There's this. Well, maybe
you can't tell his anecdotes. What about your anecdotes? Come on, tell me about your best anecdote.
So much better than mine. He's got so much more years worth of anecdotes. Anyway, let's keep going.
All right. Okay. So look, we talked about the peacock, and you've absolutely kind of nailed it with that shot. But then you also. I've picked out a few others. I'm just going to pop a couple up and talk about a couple other things. The one I like to think is a bit of a self-portrait. It's possibly the day that you kind of got a bit bored. You couldn't find any shots, so you lay down on a bench and put your shoes together. I know it's not a self-portrait, but when I showed this to my daughter, she was completely blown away by this. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Was this another happy accident? Was this one that you sort of slowly watched and you saw this, engineered it?
No. I mean, all of these pictures are real things that happen.
Good to hear.
But this particular picture is quite interesting in that, especially in parks and sort of recreational areas, you do have to be a little bit careful about private space in public. And so it's very difficult to get pictures, I think, in parks, because people do almost sort of put a ring fence around themselves just as far as their space is concerned. I expect it will be even stranger moving forward after this year. But I knew with this guy, he was just relaxing on the bench, that I probably couldn't get much closer than I had got, because even though he had his eyes closed, he would have felt my presence in the Force. It's all about stuff.
It's definitely hanging on with the Jedi's here, isn't it?
But it's something to be aware of, is that, especially in a park, people are kind of they're never totally asleep. They're always kind of semi-thinking about their handbag, or semi-thinking about the stuff that they have next to them, and blah, blah, blah. So I knew that this was about as close as I could get to him without waking him up.
Although he wasn't actually asleep.
I have no idea, but whatever he was, he just put his shoes down in a funny way. And it's interesting what you say about your daughter liking the shot, because it sort of transpires that a lot of kids really do like the work that I've made, and I'm sort of on the curriculum in various schools and things, and whatever the GCSE curriculum, they use some of my work to show the kids, and it's popular with children. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it probably is a good thing.
It resonates. I think in a way, possibly, your brain thinks a little bit like a child, because it's playful. A lot of your imagery is playful. That there's street photography, which is documenting, and then there's street photography that has a funny, quirky side to it, that you look at it and you think, wow, what's going on? And there's a lot of these images. A lot of your work, definitely the ones we've been talking about and showing, are that is it's a playful, funny side to the shot, something that maybe the average adult walking down the street wouldn't see, but obviously a child potentially could.
I think it's a shame that adults don't look inquisitively that much, and kids really do. I mean, when you walk around with a kid, they're constantly. I mean, I have 2 kids I walk around with the whole time at the moment, and they're constantly pointing things out that are amazing. Like, they're so observant, and but they're also so they don't really have all of that kind of embarrassment baggage, and sorry about all these beeps that keep going off, by the way.
I don't know if it's you or me.
I think it's me. They're not embarrassed to look, and they're not embarrassed to speak what they think. Like, for instance, my son Felix, who is 4, he keeps on seeing people wearing masks, and he goes up to them and he says, "Are you a boy or a girl?" and 9 times out of 10 it's because the guy has a ponytail, for instance, but you can't see the mouth or the hair, and so it's quite an interesting observation, and I think there's essentially an interesting project of people who you can't decide whether they're male or female wearing masks. I'll probably see that on the internet in about 2 weeks' time. Damn it! But yeah, he's very observant, and he's also he's not embarrassed to ask questions, and I think that's something that I have tried to hold on to.
Yeah, I think it's a very good approach. I mean, one of the viewers here, a guy called Daniel Mitchell, says every photo is a little imagined story, which in actual fact I think it is. You look at them and you do wonder how you got there to here, and what happened before and what happened afterwards. You look at the peacock, you look at the guy with the missing head, you wonder what happened to the leaf. Did you keep the leaf? You should have kept the leaf.
No, I don't. I have a sort of thing with stuff that what you see is what you get, and that's that.
Okay.
But I have to be honest with you, though, I was worried about it blowing away. I mean, just like, and then you're really crazy, because then you're kind of chasing a leaf down the street.
Then it's no longer a little imagined story. It's a mad obsession for that one shot.
and it's kind of a comedy sketch, but probably better for videos. And anyway, I what I see is what I get. Can you give me 2 seconds? I have the front door going. I'm going
Oh, look
to
at this. Yeah.
look.
Well, I'm going to interlude. I'm going to put up the picture of the black and white dog, Matt, while you do that.
Sure.
And if anybody is out there
Come with me.
watching, oh look, we can watch Matt go to the front door. Should we do that?
Front door in the Netherlands. Look, here we go. Excuse me.
Wow, this is live as it happens. Haven't had this happen
Hello.
before.
Hi. Oh, thank you very much.
There
Wonderful.
we go. Delivery in the Netherlands. There's a Dutch post lady. Great work. Look at that. What has he got? Coffee beans, maybe. I think we can answer that question.
Just another drug shipment.
Oh my goodness, you lucky chap. So look, so I'm going to move away from that highly interesting subject and go to dogs. But I'm going to show the black and white dog because we're kind of getting close to an hour, and I've got a couple of questions. But the black and white dog, believe it or not, Matt, I have the black and white dog as well as a print. Look at this. I'm just going to flick away from there and go, look, there it is. I don't quite know why or how I've got so many Matt Stuart prints, but I have. Black and white dog. Was this, I believe, actually, I'm going to read on the back of the black and white dog here because I think that's quite an interesting approach. This was one of the first photos I took when I had achieved my freedom as a photographer back in 2000. Up until then, I had been a humble photo assistant. I went to this large chaotic dog show in London. Hundreds of dogs yapping, flopping, sagging, and there in the middle of the arena was this Fonz of a dog, looking cool, unruffled, and displaying an innate design consciousness. He didn't even look up. Now, was that what really fully started you?
I didn't have to say a thing right there. That was great. You sounded just like me. That was amazing.
Oh my goodness, that's very good. But you've got to be proud of that one.
I mean, 1997, I got bought Henri Cartier-Bresson book. 1997, I went to see a show at the Barbican, Marc Ribot in China, completely blown away, went 10 times, bought the book, went to see him talk, asked him lots of stupid questions during the talk at the Photographer's Gallery, which was very highbrow. And I asked so many stupid questions that some of the highbrow members of the audience started to tut at my stupid questions, which Marc Ribot heard and saw my embarrassment and empathized and said, well, fantastic question. And then gave me 5-minute answers just awesome. Just to shove it back up the highbrow people's nostrils. And so yeah, Marc Ribot, and then Leonard Freed, 1998, first and last workshop, and then photography kind of mania ever since, with varying sort of peaks and troughs along the way. But in 2000, I took quite, for me anyway, as far as I can remember, some pretty good pictures.
So
it took 3 years of taking lots of bad pictures to get to that point.
Of course. I think that's fairly much the course, really, that we all go on, isn't it? I have to ask the question, though. Was there a particular image that made you suddenly go, I'm good at this. This is what I can do. This is how I can kind of carry on moving forward. Was it the dog? It wasn't the leaf, because that came later. But were there any standout shots?
1999, I took a picture of a man looking at the Millennium Wheel, who had a wheel strapped to his back. And that was my first picture that I thought was pretty good. And I'd learned how to take that picture by doing the workshop with Leonard. I had realized that you have to open yourself up to chance, but also you can't just take one picture and think you've got it. If you think you've got the picture, you really 9 times out of 10 probably haven't. It's not to perfection, whatever perfection is. You press the button and put a rectangle around something, but actually, if you're really, really interested in photographs and how they're composed or how they feel or how they are, 9 times out of 10 you take more than one. And I'd learned from Leonard that he took generally about 6 pictures on each subject. And so his contact sheets, because he's using film, black and white film with a Leica, his contact sheets were perfect. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, maybe one at the end if you're lucky. It was a complete education. 3 days, my dad sent me on this workshop, and I learned how to approach people, how to be good, how to shoot, not just to think that you're going to get a decisive moment because something's amazing. No, I mean, something can still be amazing, but you didn't take a good picture of it.
Yeah.
So many things that I learned from him. And so the Millennium Wheel picture, I think I took 17 photographs of this man with a wheel strapped to his back, and only one of them was right. Only one was what I consider, nothing's perfect, but 9 out of 10. And every other picture was either shaky because my adrenaline was going through the roof, the exposure was wrong, the focus was wrong because I just bought a Leica that I didn't know how to use. So many errors on the other 16 or 17 frames, and one frame that was right, somewhere in the middle.
Wow. Half a film.
I learned that, and well, this is, I think, but then also like becoming friends with Trent Park. You can shoot film like it's digital. It's going to cost you money, but how much do you want a great picture? How much do you want that picture to be great?
Depends how much money's in your bank account, probably.
It's do you not think, actually, this is the first year in my life that I've not been in debt. I run on debt, and I used to have a film habit, similar to a kind of crack habit. It actually probably more expensive than a crack habit. I would shoot 10 rolls a day.
Outrageous.
Shooting it like.
That's pretty full on, actually. Yeah, that's a large expense.
But
much so.
Not making contact sheets, not making contact sheets, just getting it dev'd, and buying it in bulk, and trying to become friendly with the people at the labs so that I could give them cash every now and then. But what with me admitting to a drug delivery and
never.
paying cash.
It's not true. It's not true. Anyone who's watching. So the Millennium Wheel, and you mentioned you said
dog,
two.
Actually, the dog was the first time my mum and dad thought that I was maybe okay, and they were like, "Oh, that's pretty good." Because when you're enthusiastic but not very good, it's really sad, because a lot of people you do a lot of like, oh, and look, and then I took this, and then I took this, and I remember showing my flatmate, and he would be like, "Wow, wow," and you're like, wow, you see it? And they're like, yeah, maybe you should, stick with the sort of, but yeah, that was the sort of, around then was when, like, my mum and dad thought I was taking pretty good pictures, and that's quite nice, isn't it?
Yes.
When your mum says she thinks you're doing okay.
At least if your mum thinks you're doing okay, then you're fine. You're fine. But clearly, they gave you enough confidence to continue on, and well, 24, 25, whatever years it is later now that you're counting, you've done remarkably well. In those years, is there a shot that you have in your mind that you wish you'd got that you didn't, or they're loads? Talking about today or yesterday or the day before or the day before? There you go. You've answered the question. Loads. Then clearly.
I have silly,
a standout.
No, I have silly. There's sort of surreal images that I've seen that I've missed, and there's moments that I've missed, and there was. I remember. This is just a silly one, but I remember seeing a lady walking down Oxford Street with two children, pushing 2 children in strollers. Both the kids were asleep, but under both arms she had their dolls, and under each arm there was a doll's head here and a doll's head here. So there's these flesh-coloured things that looked like breasts as she's pushing these sleeping kids down Oxford Street. And it's a one-liner, but it's just, you couldn't make it up. You can't imagine it. And I remember running in front of her because she'd walked past me. I remember running to get in front of her again, and she turned into a shop. And she hadn't literally turned into a shop. That would that would be pretty amazing. But no, she just disappeared, which is just one of those things. But you can't really beat yourself up about it. You just have to be pleased that you saw it or you
Of
experienced it.
course, yeah. I think there's a similar shot. I believe it's Elliot Erwitt. There's two melons on some shelves,
Yeah,
and a lady behind him. So
yeah,
I can envisage what you're saying.
yeah.
Um, do you have any photographers that you've seen out there? Obviously, street photography has become really omnipotent actually in the last few years. I think since the rise of smartphones, iPhones, etc. There's, it's a massive hashtag across Instagram and social and so on. Have you seen other photographers? You've referenced ones that you've learnt from. Have you seen other photographers growing out of maybe some of the workshops that you've taken, that you've seen kind of rising the ranks of social, that you can think of now?
I don't know. It's funny. The sort of all the competitions and the hashtags and all that stuff. I'm not really. I'm not that into the kind of street photography as sport and competition. There's some great, really great photographers that I admire. People like Graciela Magnoni. She's a Brazilian lady who lives in Singapore, works in India. There's people like Daniel Arnold, Melissa O'Shaughnessy, Aaron Berger in New York, Andre Wagner. I have
There's a few then. Okay.
I have a sort of photographic memory for them all, so I could I could make it extremely boring for the rest of this interview and just go through.
No, I need to do that. It's fine.
Stop there.
Email me, tell me later. All right, no, I'm interested to know kind of if you've...
There's some really great photographers out there who work exceptionally hard and have managed to make it work for themselves, just about make a living for themselves and do something that they're passionate about and love doing. And so, and I actually think it's a sort of a healthy state to be in, going out and looking at things and feeling things.
Absolutely, yeah.
For me, it's almost come to the point where I'm less interested in pressing the button on the box, but having a reason to be out there because of the box.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep statement, but interesting one, because that goes back to your visual headspace. You've seen the picture of the lady on Oxford Street, but you never took the shot, but you've told us all about it and we can now picture it ourselves. Awesome. You're going to have loads more stories like that. Maybe that's the future of Matt Stuart. Who knows? There's one question I'm going to ask you, just because we're sort of at the end of our time really, but there's a question that someone's popped in. It says, what about your new publishing venture? It's quite a loaded statement.
Thank you. Who was that? Was that my mum again?
It's a gentleman or someone called Hugh. I can't tell if they're a gentleman because they've got no picture.
Hugh. I know Hugh. Hello, Hugh.
Oh, he knows Hugh. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I've planted him. He's just doing that at the end. Thank you, Hugh. The money is in the post. No. The new publishing venture it's not really new. It's an idea I had when I made my first book. It's called Plague Press, and what I've realized, especially with street photography, not that it's going to be all about street photography, is that it's very difficult to get distributors, bookshops interested in this kind of ghetto photography form. Although there are these sort of tens of thousands of people interested in doing it because it's so accessible. And so what I'm trying to do is to publish work that people won't know or haven't seen, or if you're in the scene, you will have seen it, and just trying to sort of promote it and bring it to the forefront of to make a book of it, which is kind of what we all hope to have, and I think the book is the best way to look at photography. It's the most intimate way. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do is what I would love to do is to promote these books on my Instagram, which has got a reasonable amount of following now, and also ask other people to sort of spread the plague. resharing the work, or just saying, look at this, 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 and just almost down to the numbers of people who it is shown to, people will order it, hopefully, or be interested in it, or find out about it. And in doing that, it becomes this kind of almost, I don't want to say it's a charity, because it's not a charity, but it means that, people buy the books. I can pay the photographer whose book it is, which is a rarity in publishing. It's you usually just get, done over by the publisher.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the money from the book I can then put into making other books. So it's kind of a chain reaction.
Yeah.
And a support mechanism. And yeah, the sad but true thing is if you have a reasonable amount of followers on Instagram, you can get enough of that work out in front of people who may be interested in it. And I'm going to use my Instagram following to try to do that and promote other people's work. And I'm actually really interested in promoting other people's work. I'm not particularly interested in promoting myself. There's so many people out there who, sing and dance and beat their chests about their own work. But I'm actually far more interested in work that I've not made and that I like, because I know the work that I've made, and I'm quite frankly, I'm not bored of it, but maybe tomorrow I go out and take a picture, I'll be happy, but I'm more interested in other people's work. And, I'm not going to sit on the toilet with a photo book of my own work looking at it. Are you kidding? So that's the goal, really, is just to get more work out there and sort of pick out these sort of goldfishes and wave them around and show them to people. Nice.
Okay, so that's why your Instagram feed is full of other people's photo books. Well, not full of, but have some on there now.
It's a crappy time at the moment. I just want to get people to see work and maybe get inspired, or
be inspired.
Yeah.
So if people have got work to send you, to show you, can they do that?
I think early on, what I'm going to do is try to. Probably, I'm going to have to choose people and not take submissions initially, although I am getting submissions and looking at the work, and some of it's really good, but I guess strategically I need to make sure that the work is good enough to sell a certain amount of, and so therefore I have to be a little bit cautious, not just to kind of publish everyone.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah. No, there's. I've got a couple of people whose work I'm looking forward to talking about over the next 3-6 months.
Cool. It's going to be very exciting. Sounds like a really exciting project.
On Instagram, and it's plaguepress.com. At the moment, it's just got my book on it, and that's hopefully going to be being printed in the next week or two. It's a reprint of the first book.
Cracking. Nice. Well, that's a very good way to end things.
I'm feeling tired now, Charlie.
That's all right. We've gone way over because I was excited and wanted to talk to you about loads more stuff. But so look,
we can carry on.
We can, but just not now, because otherwise this broadcast gets way too long and then people get bored themselves. So we've retained a good, a solid amount of viewers throughout it. Thanks very much for Hugh and Daniel playing their part. Whoever Daniel is and whoever Hugh is, but Hugh says hi, Matt. There you go. It's been pretty amazing talking to you. It's really, honestly, it's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege. I've really enjoyed it. It's great.
Very easy. You're a nice voice and a nice man.
Oh,
there we go.
Thanks, Matt. I'm good. That's all I can say. Listen, take care. Stay on the line. We'll have a quick chat afterwards. And it's been a great pleasure. Respect to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Totally unbelievably amazing. Matt is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Jedi-like nature for street photography. A pretty interesting interview with its own challenges of drop connection and post ladies. But thanks very much to listeners for dropping in, making some comments and informing us about the lack of volume at the beginning. Do go and check out Matt's Instagram, Matu1, and go and see the books that he's promoting. Let's all keep an eye on the Plague Press publishing initiative that he's got going on too. As for now, thanks very much for joining. Do come again next time and go and have a look at all the other conversations that I've had with the photographers over the last 6 months or so. Thanks very much. Take care And here's to the next one.